Hi everyone, how are you all doing? This is a Hornby R751 Class 37 diesel from the 1970s. This is not my one. I do have one of these that I run quite often, still runs fine. But this was sent to me by one of my subscribers called Jerry, who contacted me and said, "Look, I've got one of these old diesels. Can you maybe have a look at it?" Because he couldn't get it going. So externally, it doesn't look too bad. But the body's not fixed on, so the big screw is missing, and there's no clip, so that's all off. I'll look at that in a minute, but looking underneath here, there's a great old bodged homemade repair. Obviously the contacts were coming loose from the bogie, and it's been well attacked with soldering iron. There's a bit of melting there, and they've put this piece of plastic across and a bit of plastic and a bit of tape underneath. And I'll check that this still works. The wheels turn okay, and so long as that's picking up current, I'm going to leave that well alone. If this was my locomotive, I would get all that out and see if I could do a better repair. But because it's not mine, I don't want to risk doing any further damage. So if it works, I'll leave it alone. The main point really is to get this locomotive going. Looking at the motor bogie, yeah, the contacts need a bit of work. One of them's not making contact with the wheel, and as usual with this motor design, these contacts start popping out. The brushes are bent, so it all looks as if it's in a bit of a mess. So this is going to need stripped down, and we'll see if we can make it go. So we'll just disassemble it and see what happens, see what horrors await. Clip's okay, that's okay, that's okay, but let's take this motor casing off. Pop the wee nut out. Pop the screw out, like so, and that should just lift off. This brush, you can see that's all mangled up. The other brush seems okay. Underneath, undo these 4 screws. Right, off that comes. There are of course traction magnets in there. If this was my locomotive, as I did with my Class 37, I just removed these, but I'll leave these, seeing as this is not mine. So we shall pop these wheels out, and then we'll get a good clean. And we have to get this thing out, which can be a bit of a palaver. I'm going to take these magnets out just now. Ooh, there's an old brush head. Dearie me, that would block things up a bit. So we can loosen it, but it won't come out. The only way to get the armature out is to remove the magnet assembly, and you have to remove the magnet, I'm afraid. There is no other way to do it. So do this quickly, get all that out, and then get the magnet back. We'll worry about the polarity later. Yeah, dirty armature, dirty commutator. I think what I will do is test this armature just to see if it actually works. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick bar-to-bar resistance test on the armature. That seems okay. Seems okay. And I'll do a quick test to see if there's no short between the commutator and the bar of the armature. That's fine. So the armature seems to be okay, hopefully. Start ready to clean up the commutator. Now, up till now, I've been a fiberglass pencil guy for cleaning commutators, but I still think they do an excellent job of cleaning commutators, but the little pieces of fiberglass that come off these things are just a bloody health hazard. So no, we're not going to use a fiberglass pencil. What I'm going to use is very, very fine sandpaper. Now there'll be people throwing their hands up in horror at this, saying you can't do that, you'll damage it. This is very, very, very fine sandpaper. It's not going to damage it. Put sandpaper around the commutator and just gently rotate the armature. I don't like introducing solvents to commutators, and because you're rotating the commutator against the this normal rotation, you're not going to cause adverse scratching. Let's scrape out the slots. See, I like to use this little precision screwdriver to do that rather than a pin. I think that's probably as good as I'm going to get with that commutator. It is not in the best condition. Right, we'll leave that, and we shall again use a little bit of sandpaper to clean up the contacts on this. So I'm just cleaning these where it's going to be in contact with the wheels. If I put these in my metal cleaner, I wouldn't have to do this, but as I say, I don't want to desolder that capacitor. Polish the tops of these. So there we go, but a very fine wet and dry sandpaper will clean up contacts quite nicely. So I'm just using an old toothbrush just to give these wheels a good clean. Never throw old toothbrushes out, they're really, really useful things. I'm not convinced about that actually, that seemed a bit intermittent. Let's just see what this one does. There's nothing there. So it could just be dirt on the wheels or dirt on the pickup on the axle that's causing that. Because if I connect it to the end of the wire, there's a connection. And same with the black wire, if I connect it to the end of the wire, there is a connection. So let's give everything a clean. And just going to use a screwdriver just to gently bend these contacts up, just to make sure that they're making good contact with the axles. So let's touch this wheel, and that's a positive. And the other wheel, there we go. So that's fine, that was just dirt that was causing the bad connection. So Jerry has given me a couple of spare parts. That's the bogie retention clip and also the screw for holding on the body. Or it's the original parts, just put in a bag, not sure which. But there should be a brass spacer when you put this body on. So we'll try it without the spacer, but it should go on okay. I think we'll give this body a bit of a clean and soapy water. I mean, it's pretty good condition, but it's, So I'm just bending this coupling back into position because it's clearly been in the wars. Right, now this brush here, you can see that it's pretty twisted. Right, that's a bit better. Right, so I need to fit the magnet assembly and the armature. So it's kind of tricky to do because you can't put the armature and then put the magnet assembly in, and you can't really put the magnet assembly in without putting the armature in. So you kind of have to do them almost both together. So I'm going to put the two magnet assembly halves in there like that. Then we just quickly put the armature through. Don't worry about the position too much of the bearings, we can sort them out later. And then get that magnet back in. I don't want to leave that out of its retainers for too long. And then it's just a question of manipulating this into its correct position. Okay, let's just put the plastic casing on. And then we can put the screw through. Like that. Put the little nut in. And that'll just keep everything together while we do the rest of the assembly. So spotter grease into the chassis there where the wheels are, the axles are going to go, and then we can pop in the wheels. Doesn't matter which way around these go because they're all metal, because all 4 wheels in this bogie are conductive. So pop them in like that, and we'll put in the traction magnets. Not that they actually do anything. We can then put this bottom plate on, and that will keep the wheels in place. I made a schoolboy error. I forgot to put this little screw in, so I'm going to have to take this off again. Right, so we need to put these contacts back. Oh, the fun. So it looks like this has been taken apart a few times. Alright, okie dokie, all it means is to get the brushes in, and oh my god do I hate doing this. So what I think we'll do is we'll loosen this off. I just need a bit of wriggle room here. There. One. Now the other one. I'm trying to get the other one in without dislodging the one you've already put in. Yeah. Great fun. Go on. There we go. We're in. Right, let's put that screw back through before it all falls apart again. Okay, and then we need to put our little insulator on, otherwise it's all just going to short out. Like so, and basically that should go. I'm just going to go and test this in the layout to see if it actually goes. Alright, oh, it's completely dead. Absolutely nothing at all. There's nothing off the battery, there's nothing on the track. So, just going to do some testing here. So from that wheel, does that, yeah, that's working, and that's gone right through to the brush, and then on the other side, that's gone right through to the brush. So there's, you know, connectivity all the way to the brush. If I contact that, so that's connecting. Is there a contact between the commutator? This is a bit fiddly, between the commutator and the brush. Not on that side, there isn't. And on this side, there is. I think we've got a duff brush. I was a bit sceptical of that brush. It looked like the brush head has come off and someone had soldered it on. Let's just pull it out. So if I touch the copper, I get a reading. If I put the contact on the brush, there's nothing. Do you know what I think's happened? I think somebody's glued it on. Yeah, it's off. Okay, I'm going to have a wee go at resoldering this brush. I've never done this before. I've normally just binned them and used new brushes. So when you clean this up, you'll not be able to see that, but at the end of the brush there's a wee hole on the end of the copper. I think what we'll do is we'll use a little bit of flux. Put some flux on here, and that'll should allow me to just stick that on. It should just hold in place. I'm probably going to end up soldering this to my helping hands, but let's give this a wee go. If I can just get a little bit of solder in here, just to get this to stick. I wonder if that's done enough. Well, it's on, and what that now lets me do is get to the back of this, turn these helping hands round, and I can put a little bit more flux on. Right, let's see if we have a connection between the copper and the brush. Yes, we do. So that should work if it holds together. There we are, brush repaired. I'm quite chuffed at that. So I've popped in the repaired brush. So I'm going to give this a bit of an oil before I test it again. So I'm going to oil the gears. And I just want to get oil into the bearings, either end there. So let's go and try this on the layout now, just to see what it does before we put everything back together. Right, okay, power on. Ooh, some big sparks. A bit hesitant, but so that seems to be running okay. Some big sparks coming out of it, but that's kind of normal. It's just tiny little bits of dirt between the pickups and the wheels, and also, it just takes a little bit of running in, and then the sparks kind of disappear. But I've always found this particular type of motor to be quite sparky. Right, let's go and put this back together and see how the whole thing goes. I can't believe I've only just noticed this just now, but this front bogey's missing its middle wheel. I mean, this is a horrendous bodge job to sort the pickups on this front bogey, and in doing so, there's so much stuff there. They've removed the middle wheel. Put in the little clip, which goes on like that. And does that? Yeah, should be okay. But this brass screw has got what looks like glue or something on the end, so we're going to have to get that off. Glue touched it. Hopefully melt off, burn off whatever's there. Okay, so I'm just checking to see if this screw goes in, and it does, but unfortunately the receptor for the screw is the plastic's all broken round about it, and it's ready to just pop out. Okay, so what I've done to resolve the body shelf screw problem is I've embedded the little threaded brass receptacle into this epoxy putty. It's just this this milliput epoxy putty stuff, which I've used before. It's excellent stuff. It's a bit like two bits of plasticine that you mix together and leave it for 2-3 hours, and it sets absolutely rock solid. So hopefully that will stick. I've superglued the sides there because the chassis was cracked. I think, looking at this again, I think this has been trod on or something, and I think there was a break in this bogie. I think that's why that's been bodged up that way, so I think I made the right decision not to touch it. Right, let's see if my little epoxy putty solution is going to work. Hopefully, if we drop this screw down, we don't have the spacer, unfortunately. I'm going to screw this down gently. As soon as I get some resistance, I'm just going to stop. I'm not going to force it. I think that'll do. It's maybe going to be a bit loose, but it's not going to fall off. So I think what I'll do is I'll undo it again, because I want to make sure that this could be undone and replaced. Yep, I think we've cracked it. There we go. So again, I think it's probably always going to be a little bit loose, and that's possibly to do with it not having the spacer. I don't want to over tighten that screw. So there we have what was a very broken R751 Class 37 diesel, all back together. Let's go and stick it in the layout and see what happens. Okay, there it is. Let's power on. Okay, can't resist running it alongside mine as well. So Jerry's is on the outside and mine's is on the inside. So there we go, that's this old R751 Class 37. Back in one piece and running again. So I'll just have to get this packaged up and sent back to Jerry, but Jerry, it's okay. Right, catch you later folks.